So I'm out of town for the weekend, and my phone rings, and it's my wife, and I can tell that she's driving. And she says, "Don't freak out, but I got a dog." And I was like, "Really?" She says, "Really?" She's like, "Look, I was at a dog adoption event, and there was a bunch of puppies, and everybody wanted the puppies, everybody took all the puppies, but there was one dog that was left, and he's an older dog, and I asked, and they said, yeah, his family abandoned him, and nobody really wants him, so we're gonna take him back to the shelter." And she's like, "I blacked out or something, but like, there's a dog in our car going to our house right now." And I said, "Okay." I said, "Tell me about this dog." She was like, "Well, he's adorable. His name's Bubbles." I said, "Bubbles?" And she said, "Yes, his name's Bubbles. And he's a basset hound mixed with a boxer, and he's really cute. He looks like a basset hound puppy." And then she said, oh my God, oh no. And I was like, "Oh my God, what's happening? Like, did the dog pee? Did he jump out the window? Did he grab the wheel?" What had happened was that Bubbles had crawled into the front seat of the car and had started to lick Megan's face while she was driving on the freeway, right? So that sort of fast and furious resolved itself. They got home, but it got a little worse. That night, Megan got food poisoning and was incapacitated all weekend. I was still out of town. The house was not dog-proofed, so Bubbles explored his environment. And so when I got home, all my stuff was chewed up. So he chewed up clothes, he chewed up paperback books, he chewed up a vinyl shower curtain, he chewed up a cartridge of safety razors, which is like pretty metal. And so I get in, like, all my stuff is chewed up, but there's this like super happy dog that wants to be my friend. And we had to make a decision pretty quickly, right? Like, do we keep this dog? Do we foster him and have someone else adopt him? Do we take him back to the shelter? Is it just not the right fit? And it was a hard decision because our last dog was a good dog. We had a greyhound named Kyle, and Kyle was the kind of dog where he barked 3 times, which means that in the time we had him, he barked exactly 3 times. You could leave a ham sandwich on the table, and Kyle would come up to it and respect it and say, "That's your sandwich." Bubbles, not a good dog. He would come at your food like the Terminator, just like straight line vector. And if you pushed him, he would just veer to another attack point, coming right at it. And he was sort of prone to disasters. He liked to sleep. His favorite place to be was where I sleep. And so when I sleep, I had to kind of do a pretzel, kind of like this, with him here. And people who have dogs know what I'm talking about. And, so I woke up one morning kind of in the pretzel, and Bubbles is standing over Megan and I, and he's staring at us. And he wants to say something. And he opens up his mouth and coughs, and out of his mouth comes a huge piece of memory foam. Like as big as his head. It was like a magic trick. It was like, wow! And this huge piece of foam lands on us, covered in bile. And that was when we'd realized that Bubbles had eaten his dog bed the day before. And there was foam in his stomach, which was bad and expensive. And so it's hard to have a conversation about whether or not you want to keep a dog when the dog's right there barking at you to get his dinner, and you just fed him dinner. But when we came down on it, we said, look, like, he is a hot mess, and he is not a good dog, but nobody wants this dog, so we should keep him. And that was 8 years ago. And in those 8 years, our lives got really messy. Both of my parents passed away, and I changed jobs a few times, and my wife and I became foster parents. And through that whole time, Bubbles has been this constantly tail-wagging source of love. He started a Couch to 5K with me, and then realized he didn't like running, so he turned into like a little anchor, but I still got in really good shape. I got a job at a startup, and he went with me to work a lot, and he was a terrible coworker. He would just knock over people's garbage cans and bark at them when there wasn't food in there. And he had figured out that if he goes into a meeting and makes noise, people will give him dog treats to go away, so he'd just kind of lurk outside of conference rooms and sneak in just to kind of bust them up. But when I left that job after a year, I could tell that the people there were going to miss him a lot more than they were going to miss me. And as a foster parent, he is probably better than I was. He was pretty much just a foster parent and therapy dog to these kids who lived in our house. We had one younger foster kid who insisted that he sleep in the bed with her every night. And He was a little confused about it, but then she fed him an entire case of breakfast biscuits. And so they are good friends to this day. But we got some bad news a few weeks ago. Bubbles is over 10 and he had a seizure, and that's bad for a dog at that age. And so we took him to a doggy neurologist, because of course we did. And we got him a doggy MRI, because of course we did. And he has a brain tumor, and it's not operable, and his prognosis is weeks to months. And the crazy thing about having a terminally ill pet is you're going through this really terrible emotional series of emotional trials, right? You're Googling in-home euthanasia, which you really can't do without crying. And you're reaching out to all the people that are his friends that he has touched through his life, and that's a lot of people. And you're telling them, look, you gotta come by pretty soon. But from his perspective, he's having a blast. All he knows is that he went to the vet, took a nap, and all of a sudden, he's not on a diet anymore. And all his favorite people are coming by with toys and treats. And he even got to go back to the startup one day and buzzed up a few more conference calls. And, you think that you have all the time, and then you don't. And when you don't, you want every second. And I know that there's a day coming up in which I'm gonna have to say goodbye to him, but I'm sort of hoping it's not goodbye, right? I'm hoping that if there's a place we go after this, where we go to rest, I know he's gonna be there waiting for me, laying down where I should rest, and refusing to move, because that's his favorite place. But that's not tonight. Tonight, I get to go home to him after this. I'm gonna wake him up, I'm gonna tell him how it went, I'm gonna play with him, and I'm gonna tell him what I've been telling him, which is that he's not a good dog, but he's my best friend, and I'm so glad nobody wanted him. Thank you.